Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group bi-weekly meeting. It is August 2nd, 2018. I can't believe it is already August. Summer is rapidly escaping. So let's jump right into our call here today. So this is just to sort of frame what's going on for folks that might be new to the call or new to listening to the recordings. We're a part of the larger SharePoint Patterns and Practices program, and the reason we started these special interest group calls is we were really a victim of our own success. We had too much content across all of SharePoint that we wanted to cover. We just couldn't do it in our monthly community calls, and so we started these bi-weekly alternating special interest group calls. This one is the client-side development one, which is focused very much on SharePoint Framework and the client-side development patterns associated with SharePoint Framework, as well as the PnP JS libraries that we've all worked on together building as a community, and then anything else client-side development / SharePoint related. So whether that's doing stuff in a script editor web part, we've seen some cool demos there, or doing some other kind of client-side solutions around, for example, like the column formatter work and things like that. So we really are focused more on that. And then alternating with these, we do have the PowerShell and core component special interest group, which is the opposite Thursdays from this meeting. You're, of course, welcome to join one or all of these calls. We love having folks join the calls. But that one the other call will focus a little bit more on the PowerShell, a little bit more on the core patterns and practices CSOM components, and give you a little bit more focus there. Two links down at the bottom, aka.ms/SPPnP-community, will take you to the Microsoft Tech community for all things SharePoint. That's a great place to ask general questions that aren't really specific to any of the frameworks or any of the libraries. That are more, how would you design, how would you kind of plan a deployment, things like that are great community questions. And the second link there, aka ms/spdev-docs, will take you to the SharePoint developer documentation, and that is the developer documentation all up. So whether you're new to SharePoint Framework and looking to get started there and work through the tutorials, you'll find those there, as well as resources around working with sort of add-in development, so the provider-hosted add-in development, and then as well the more classic module development or WSP development for SharePoint, which is we're seeing a little bit less usage of that as we go forward, but we do still support that, of course, for on-premises, and you'll find the resources for that there. So moving into this week's agenda, well, real quick, any chat or team channels around PnP, like Teams or Discord. We do have a couple different Gitter channels for the PnP JS component, as well as the Office 365 CLI has a Gitter channel, but we don't really have other team channels that we maintain as such. So really the tech community and the threads there are kind of that sort of thing. And a bit of that is just honestly the time it takes across all these things to maintain them. So certainly, happy for folks in the community to set up a Discord or whatnot and talk PnP. I think that's great, but I don't know that that's something that we on the core team will be leading or actively maintaining. So an agenda for this week, Vasa's edited this slide to say that he says hi. Vasa's still on vacation. He's on his crazy European vacation, which goes on for, I don't know, it seems like months at a time. But we are all still here, and so today we're going to talk about a quick engineering update on SharePoint Framework. We've got updates on the PnP JS client libraries, as well as a little history of SPFx and JS, and talking about the transition from that to the new PnP JS libraries. Updates on the Office 365 CLI, updates on the reusable components for SharePoint Framework, and then we've got a really cool demo from Stefan Bauer on the local development of Azure Functions to consume third-party API and connect a web part locally. So really cool scenario there he's going to show us, and we may have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. We'll see how the rest of the meeting goes. So jumping right in, we always like to start off with opportunities. People ask us, how can I get involved in patterns and practices, or more specifically, how can I get involved in the SharePoint Framework or JavaScript Special Interest Group? The best way to get involved, or my favorite way for folks to get involved, is for you to demo something you're working on. So demoing a SharePoint Framework solution. It could be a web part, it could be an extension, it could be a lot of different things. You can do a SharePoint Framework now. Demoing something with the PnP JS libraries, a combination of the two, of course, is great. But I find the demos to be one of the more valuable parts of the call, because we really get to see some of the awesome work all of you are doing out there in the community to really build up. Excuse me, I'm having a real allergy attack this morning. To build up solutions for your customers, and I know I see something new and different and cool every time somebody does a demo, and we've seen some really amazing stuff on the calls, and I know a lot of you out there are working on really amazing stuff of your own, so I would very much invite you to demo those things on the call. So if you want a demo, all you have to do is reach out to myself or Vesa. Twitter is a great way to do that, and we'll get you on the agenda for an upcoming call. It might not necessarily be the immediately next upcoming call, but we'll definitely get you on the agenda, and would love to have anyone out there who's interested in doing a demo just get in touch with us, and would love to have you. As well, you can always contribute on GitHub. So contributing on GitHub takes in a couple different shapes. One of those is you can obviously, of course, contribute code. We accept pull requests across all the PnP projects, not just PnP JS, but everything the PnP team does. We accept pull requests there. As well, contributing can include reporting issues you might find with any of the libraries or SharePoint Framework itself. Always appreciate hearing those issues and working to solve them, because it makes things better for everybody. And then finally, you can always provide feedback. So it might not necessarily be feedback on, for example, an issue with the library. It might just be feedback on the calls, or feedback on samples or things like that. We always appreciate that feedback. We can't necessarily act on it always immediately, but we do very much appreciate it. We do very much take it to heart. When you take the time to give us feedback, we do listen, and we do our best to change and adjust and grow and learn from that feedback. So please keep that coming. So updates. This week you'll be hearing from me for the SharePoint Framework update, as Vesa is still on vacation. So as always, documentation and guidance, you can find that at the spdev-docs aka MS link. We've got a new platform we're working on, it's a new back-end platform for all the SharePoint development documentation. We're working to move all of the SharePoint development topics to this location. So this link hasn't changed, just sort of the back-end platform and the layout. We hope it's a lot clearer for folks to see there. Obviously, lots of views. Folks are hitting this documentation, which is great. And we are managing this content in GitHub, but it's still surfaced at docs.microsoft.com/SharePoint. So again, the back-end changes, hopefully invisible to all of you, but the front-end changes hopefully have made things a little bit easier to find and a little bit clearer. Does this include class documentation? It may. I haven't looked in a little bit. If it doesn't, it will. So we're working on moving things over there. Excuse me. And then, as always, if you're running into issues with SharePoint Framework or the Office 365 SharePoint Online Service, you can always report those bugs. There's a link there, spdev-issues. Will take you to the SPDev docs repository, which, despite the name, is actually the issues list for reporting all potential bugs with the SharePoint Framework or SharePoint Online Service. If you think you found a bug with the service, something was working and now isn't, things like that. Love to hear those, get those reported. Those are all triaged twice a week and are worked through just as fast as folks can do it. And this, again, started with SharePoint Framework, but has expanded, of course, as a place to report other critical bugs around the SharePoint Online service. So we'll do our best to respond there. and as well to redirect you if there's a better place to report a certain issue with the service. But if you are seeing issues, please do report them. Don't just keep it to yourself because it'll never get fixed. You might be the only person that has found that issue so far. So we would love to hear about it, love to work on getting it fixed for you. So as always, we look at these charts here for the adoption of the third-party solutions. So this is SharePoint Framework solution usage. And you can see here that the usage per user and usage per tenant is both going up. And so I always like these charts just because you can absolutely see when the weekends are as the usage just plummets, as it should, which is great. Because folks should hopefully be chilling out on the weekends. So this is just the growth of the custom SharePoint Framework solutions. So these are ones not developed by Microsoft as part of the service, but are developed by all of you out there in the community for your customers or for your companies, and how the usage is growing. So great to see that. Great to see things continuing to trend upward, both on the per user, which means users are actually using these solutions you're building, and then on the tenants as well. We're seeing tenants doing more and more deployments of what we're finding, or of SharePoint Framework, of what folks are putting out there. The usage continues to grow for those things. So roadmap for calendar year 2018. As always, disclaimer, preliminary plans, these are always subject to change. So spring, a lot of stuff, spring has kind of already happened. So now we're into the summer, fall. I won't read through the whole list here, but the big one is SharePoint Framework 1.6, looking to do that mid-August. So that'll be another version bump for the SharePoint Framework. The big things coming there is going to be the native graph access will hopefully finally be sorted and go to GA, and then as well some things around dialogue framework and updating to React 16, which I know has been a big thing for a lot of folks, getting React 16 support in there, as well as some SharePoint 2019 support will be rolled into the SharePoint Framework 1.6. I don't have details on exactly what that will look like yet, but that is all coming. And then the next sort of planned version bump would be around Ignite 2018, which is going to be the Framework 1.7. So looking for that'll be the next big version bump after this one coming, hopefully mid-August. Does that include AAD HTTP client? I imagine you're talking about the native graph access. That will include some flavor of AAD HTTP client. I'm not certain exactly how they're gonna release that at this point, but it will involve that kind of capability. Global deployment is being able to automatically deploy and activate extension / web parts on all site collections. I don't think activate necessarily, but definitely global deployment. They may roll activation in there, but I'm not aware of that, so I don't think for sure that that is going to be part of what's coming out. So updates as well on the Starter Kit. So demonstrating end-to-end modern experiences. If you haven't checked out the SharePoint Starter Kit, it is a great way to sort of, without sort of self-referential, starting an intranet. So it gives you some great examples on how to provision, and then how to style, and then how to produce some of these custom web parts that are commonly asked for in portals. So working on gradual updates. This is a community effort, the SharePoint Starter Kit, so separate from the SharePoint engineering updates. But this does demonstrate some end-to-end modern experiences. So it is, again, community building. So constantly improving the documentation, working on that, working on demos for each web part, and then as well improving the web parts and extensions. And again, that's all gradual, slow work as folks have time. That's a place, if you'd like to contribute, like to jump in, you could definitely do that. And then some of the more long-term steps for targeting around Ignite. Again, sort of tying into that Ignite timeframe, self-service website to automatically provision things, so that's something we're looking at providing, as well as support for different open source content packs, and then support for overriding configurations inside the starter kit, so which themes, which web parts, things like that around the starter kit deployments. Excuse me, jumping back into the questions, will the team's SPFx integration come with SPFx 1.7? I do not have an answer for that. So I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I don't know for sure. Dennis, want to activate my footer extensions and all site collections easily? Absolutely understand. I'm right there with you, often asked for. So we definitely get that. I just don't know if it'll be coming in the 1.6 release. Will the requirement for first release tenants stay for the starter kit? For now, yes, simply because it uses some of the first release capabilities. But as those things start to roll out to GA, I think, please don't come for me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the release of 1.6 will be everything the starter kit needs, so it will no longer be first release tenants. I think that is going to be the case. So that should help with the starter kit on non-first release tenants. Will there be any new integration with Teams as Skype sunsets? I cannot give you any details, but yes, there will be new integrations with Teams coming. Things are in the works, but nothing I can talk about publicly right at this moment, Steve. Very sorry to be cryptic on that, but yes, stuff is coming. Yes, stuff is. Oh, got a great echo there. So just remember to find whoever this is. Mute. There we go. So do remember, join on mute when you jump into the calls. Really helps us with the recording. Updates. Now I think I got all the questions. So updates on the PnP client-side libraries. Next release is going to be August 3rd. That is actually tomorrow for those of you checking out the calendar. Do remember Patterns and Practices SP-taxonomy has been released. Give it a try. It's a great way to have a fluent API to talk to the taxonomy. We did just fix a bug, so it was kind of a good find. We had that submitted as an issue, got that fixed. That'll be in the release on August 3rd. So do give the taxonomy stuff a try. I would love to hear the feedback from folks using that, how we can continue to improve and grow that. The libraries have been published to CDN.js, so you should be able to use those and access those as well. One thing I wanted to bring up, we had one person report an issue with using the libraries off the CDN, and I've heard a little bit of a sort of informal chatter that other folks might be having issues. I haven't myself been able to reproduce those, but if you are having issues loading the libraries off the CDN or having any trouble there, please do report that. Let us know with as much detail as you can, because obviously we don't want to be causing folks issues. But again, if we don't know about it or can't reproduce it, it's really almost impossible for us to kind of fix and diagnose. So if you are having trouble with the CDN stuff, do let us know, and we'll do our best to try and address those things. Where should we focus next? Of course, always looking for feedback from folks on the kind of things we can add to the library, or how we can best expand the library or enhance the library to make everybody's lives easier. That's always our goal. If you have an idea, please take it to the issues list for the PnP JS libraries and just put an issue in there, tag it as an enhancement, and we'd love to review that, love to see how it fits into the roadmap and how we can get it involved. And as well, if you have ideas you would like to contribute, would love to hear those as well. Absolutely welcome your pull requests, and your contributions back to the library is a great way to get involved, and would love to have those. As well, about getting involved, looking for folks to help with samples and help with the documentation. One of our pretty much consistent pieces of feedback is you should have better documentation. We do try, but the documentation, I think as we all know as developers, sadly usually gets pushed in priority for fixing bugs and helping folks with their other issues. So we are looking for help. If you have ideas or want to help make the documentation better, it's all there in the GitHub. So absolutely welcome help with that, and would very much appreciate help with that. It's just hard at times to get in there. And just a final note, I feel like every few months we just have to remind folks of this. Keep your feedback and your issues and your things you report constructive. We're all doing our best. We're all doing this in our free time, and it is something we're putting out there into the community for free. So sort of showing up and kind of having a less than collaborative attitude isn't necessarily the best way to approach reporting an issue or approach the library. Love the feedback, love to hear from folks, love to try and help folks and get things fixed, but do keep things constructive, do keep things in the vein of we're all trying to work to make things better for everybody. So if you find a problem with the library or find a bug, it's certainly not something we put there on purpose. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to hear ideas on how to make things better, but do keep that constructive, do keep that civil, but do let us know. We love to have that feedback. Yeah, the rabbits are growing. People are noticing. So links down there at the bottom. pnp.github.io/pnpjs gets you all the documentation for PnP JS libraries. You can follow the hashtag PnPJS on Twitter, and you can always follow me at Mediocre Bowler on Twitter. I don't post a ton of stuff, so you won't get a lot of spam from me, but it'll be updates around the PnP JS libraries, releases, things like that. Interesting retweets of stuff people are doing in the community. So follow me. We'll do our best. Will I be hosting any meetings or sessions at Ignite? Patrick, personally, will not at this time be at Ignite, but I think the Vesa will be there, and there will be some PnP activities at Ignite. So we'll see. But as we get closer, we'll update folks with what's actually going on, with PnP and Ignite. So we'll have a little bit more explicit schedule. So this week, this was going to be 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about a brief history of SPFx JS. So this is the library that started all of the client-side development inside Patterns and Practices. So again, separate from SharePoint Framework, inside Patterns and Practices, we had, way back when, before SharePoint Framework was released, we had an initial developer kitchen to preview SharePoint Framework, and Vesa and I were sitting in the back of that, and we decided we should start something for Patterns and Practices to help with client-side development in the way Patterns and Practices had done with the CSOM work. And so we started the SPFx JS library, the first commit of which was way back when, February 29th, 2016, which it's so long ago. Time really flies. But between then and now, we had 324 pull requests, 505 issues reported, 42 contributors, as well as 354 stars, 228 forks, and 84,251 downloads off of NPM in that time. And that's really amazing and really a testament to all of you out there in the community who helped, number one, helped build this, whose feedback helped drive this, and who are using this out there in your projects every day. And then we published the last version of the SPFx JS library on July 6th, 2018. So the way to go now is we're not stopping with our client-side development, but we are very much encouraging you to migrate to the new PnP JS libraries. Got, I think, a lot of improvements there. We've got a little bit better model there. It's been updated with, I know, a lot of my learnings, and I know a lot of our learnings as a whole, as a community, have gone into those new libraries. And then that graph there, I think is really cool, and I think really shows off, some kind of amazing growth. On the left of that graph is when we first started tracking the telemetry of SPFx JS. It had very little usage. I think we had about 8 million requests that first month we were tracking it. And we're now consistently over 1 billion requests a month through the SPFx JS library, and that's excluding the folks that have already migrated over and are using the PnP JS, the new libraries. So amazing growth, and again, a great testament to all of you in the community that helped build this and are using this in your projects and have really made this a success. So it's really a community success that I'm very proud and happy to have been a part of, and I hope you are as well. Just a little bit, some other facts. We started this as a way, again, before SharePoint Framework was released. Some of you that were here back at the beginning remember when we started these calls, we kind of had a lot of cryptic, hey, you might want to learn this kind of messaging without a lot of details. And it wasn't always clear necessarily why we were telling you to learn this or why we were trying to move forward with some of these technologies or why we were pushing things. And then I think a lot of folks had a kind of aha moment when SharePoint Framework came out and realized we'd been trying to lay the groundwork for that. So we started this. It was a bit of a preparatory exercise for SharePoint Framework. The library really provided a fluent API for SharePoint REST while wrapping up a lot of the common operations that folks do every day. I think it's been a really valuable exercise. I think it's really helped a lot of stuff and made things a lot easier for folks. As well, we expanded over the years of maintaining the library to support Graph, to support expanded Node.js support. We commented or focused down on a common request pipeline between all the libraries, so Graph and SharePoint use that common pipeline. And then as well, we really stayed responsive to and built upon all the great community feedback and community enhancement requests and issues reported. So again, I can't emphasize enough how much this was a community success, growing this that all of us had a stake in and really helped build. And then it served as the foundation for the PnP JS work, which continues moving forward. So we're not done developing libraries. We've just moved over to the new libraries that I mentioned a little bit earlier on the previous slide. And that, again, we're still working, incorporating the feedback from the community and our learnings there. And to really, the goal is always to make things better for everybody. So if you've been using SPFx JS, I just want to say thank you. But please do start to migrate, move over to PnP JS libraries. Let us know your feedback. Help us grow and make those better in the way that we've all worked together to make the SPFx JS library great. So it's been quite a journey. And the last thing I'll say on that is just thank you. So that's a thank you to everybody out there who's listening. And the heavens just opened up here, so you might hear a little background noise of the rain hitting my metal roof. But thank you, everybody out there. It's been great, and look forward to continuing the journey with the PnP JS libraries with all of you in the same vein. So we'll keep up the great work, and thank you again to everybody. So really can't say thank you enough. It's been quite rewarding to be part of this. All right, enough gushing for me. Let's go check out the Office 365 CLI updates. We've got the new beta version of 1.5.0 is out. That has just added support for managing content types, fields, navigation nodes, client-side web parts, listing columns, as well as updating site properties. So you can check that out today in that beta version. And then as well, still working on getting support for more SharePoint Framework versions for the upgrade. Do cross-platform PnP Starter Kit setup script. So the idea there would be a way to set up your PnP Starter Kit cross-platform, so you wouldn't be tied in as much to like the PowerShell approach. And then, of course, always looking for more commands, and then the feedback as well to drive this CLI development. What commands can be improved or added to there. So you can always install the latest version from npm using the -g at PnP Office 365 CLI command. More information at aka ms Office 365 CLI. You can follow the hashtag Office 365 CLI on Twitter. There's as well a Gitter channel there, Office 365-CLI, and the docs are at that aka ms link So you'll have to check those out. Jumping back, publishing, does this mean cross-site publishing will now work? Managed cross... no, I do not believe the CLI manages cross-site publishing. So no, I don't think that's in there. So reusable SharePoint Framework controls. So these are some great controls that if you haven't checked these out, make your SharePoint Framework development experience a little better in two ways. The first way is a set of React controls you can use in the body of your web parts. So some enhancements. So version 1.6.0 has been released. Some enhancements there are a new telemetry approach, which allows you to use application insights. And then as well, a disabled property for the people picker has been added, so you can enable and disable the people picker control. And then fixes the people picker property selected items has been fixed. So that was a bug number 90, the issue that had been approached. So those controls are fantastic. Use them right in the body to extend your SharePoint Framework web parts. Those are built on top of the React UI framework control, so you're going to get the same look and feel that you're used to out of the UI framework. So check those out, or I'm sorry, the UI fabric, not framework, UI fabric. So check those out. Really speeds up your development, can save you a lot of time for a lot of commonly used controls. And then the second way is for helping you out with property control. So these are controls you would use in your property pane to help with when you go into edit mode. Folks can use these controls to give you a better web part editing experience. And version 1.8 has just been released. So again, the new telemetry approach has been added here as well. And then the property field list picker and optional property for target sites has been added to the property. I'm sorry, I said that sentence really terribly. The optional property for target sites has been added to the property field list picker. So you can check that out as well. More information is always there at those two links on the GitHub sites for those. And these are, again, open source, so if you'd like to contribute or you find an issue, please do submit your contribution as a pull request or report your issue there in the issues list. Does the people picker properties post people's picture or pickles? I believe it posts the collection of just the properties of that picked person, right? Like the login name or the ID. Pickles, pepper, okay. So now, ready to step into a great demo from Stefan. Stefan, if you are there and ready to go.
Yes, I am. I hope you all hear me, and I will now take the presenter and share my screen.
All right, loading over here.
Yeah, because I haven't shared the screen now. Do you see something?
Still loading on my end, but almost there.
Are we there?
All right, I've got it.
Cool. So what I actually show you is a Vimeo web part that uses a local Azure function, which on the first look might not really make sense, but I wanted to actually show the development story of how you can develop a local Azure function. And the problem actually I addressed here has a history to it. Because from a UX perspective, I wanted to show that sometimes the toolpan is not the right place to make some configurations. And I thought a video web part, let's say for Vimeo, is where you are able to search for videos on the platform and directly embed the video then to your SharePoint site would be a great tool. This now then, what I came to that is, so should I really write in the Vimeo access directly through to my web part, or should I use something else like an Azure function? So for example, if the client application ID or the client secret changes, I have to redeploy the web part, but this is something I simply can address in the Azure function configuration. So when some when I need to change something to access the third-party API, it's a safer place to have it in an Azure function, and all web parts access the API through this Azure function instead of have all your code inside the web part. And then I thought to myself, okay, I can go up to the Azure portal, start the Azure function right there, and start to develop directly on the Azure portal, but this is a good experience, but not actually the best experience that you can have. So I started to look around, what are the possibilities to develop your Azure function locally. And what I installed first on my client was the Azure Function Core tools, because this allows you to create via CLI all the Azure functions locally on your computer and actually mimic all the functionalities of an Azure function. And this was the first thing I installed, and then I followed the tutorial. So when you look over to the sample here in the SPFx web part, so you see the Vimeo request here. This folder actually contains the complete Azure function that I run locally and use for my development. And you also have another folder here, which is called the Vimeo web part, that actually is the web part then that accesses the Vimeo, this local, the local Azure function. So let's take a look at the code. So what you have here is in your local settings.json. This is actually the equivalent to the application settings that you have on Azure. So you can put in here the Vimeo secret, and you can have the Vimeo endpoint. And one thing that was required is that I create a certificate, because by default this Azure function runs on HTTP, but to access the local Azure function, I have to turn the Azure function to HTTPS. And this is also included in this configuration. So what you see here is actually the Azure function in the search folder. And you see also here there are node modules in there, and there's a package.json. So when I started to develop, or actually tried to take a look at the Vimeo website, what this website offers for developers, I found Node.js as an official supported library. So I wrote all my Azure function basically all in JavaScript, and Node.js was for me the next step to do. So I actually installed here the Vimeo client, which is currently the version 2.0.2. And I have simply here an index file, and this is the complete Azure function. So what it does, here you pass in the Vimeo API key and the secret. Then you log in with a OAuth 2 scope, which is public. So this allows me to actually query all the public available videos from Vimeo. So if you're an organization that has published all your videos there, then you actually have to switch the scope a little bit, that you might be able to access videos that are not listed on Vimeo publicly. So then from this generate client credentials, I get back an access token, as we all know, and then I'm able to search actually for a video. So what I also created here or I have in here is a small shell script, because I don't want to use the CLI all the time with function start, use HTTPS, where's my certification package, which password the certificate requires, and that it allows core requests. So I created here a small bash script that is actually just a shortcut for me, that I can now go to the folder to the console and say /debug shell. And now it starts my local Azure function. And once this Azure function has started, it says, okay, you can access this search method that you wrote in the Azure function through the port localhost 7071 API/search. So let's search for a video, for example, here, and take a look at what happens here in the Azure Functions. So I just simply pass in a query that says hello world. And now it goes to Vimeo and actually returns all the results, all videos that have been found with hello world back as a JSON file. And you see also here how this requests have been sent out to the Vimeo API. So with this, I was now able to actually mimic the Azure function that I would have accessed on Azure otherwise. So it's pretty convenient to actually change the code in the Azure function directly locally here in the project. So that was the first step, and for me. So the next step was actually to build a web part. And first I show you how this web part works. So I go over to the web part configurations, say here job serve. And then first show you the web part, how this all works. So this actually has two parts. So one part is you can edit or you can search Vimeo for videos directly inside the web part. So I go here, once loaded, here to Vimeo and search for example hello world. Then it directly searches the platform, and I do this again. So I clear out the search result, and now I search for example CamX and press the search button, and you see here in the Azure function that the request has been sent out through my Azure function to the third-party API. So this is actually the list of videos that I got back from Vimeo. And in here, for example, I can say, I want to use this video. I want to see this video. I hope I'm muted, otherwise. So I can directly preview the video in here. And I say, okay, this is the right video that I want to use. I just simply press this button, say use this video. And when I open up the web part, this video link actually has directly saved in here. So when I go now to, you always have in the workbench the possibility to preview the video or how it looks then on the edit mode. You directly see the video, how it will be embedded on the page directly. Okay? So from a coding perspective, what I created is a simple web part. You see here. And this .display mode is actually a representation where I can identify if I'm currently in the edit mode, so like we are used to use in the old in the classic experience. So when the display mode is actually set to true, then it returns true, or otherwise it's false. So I pass in here, for example, the Vimeo URL, the HTTP client, the unsafe. Here, this method I need to use to actually save. When I press the button, use this video to save the Vimeo URL to the web part properties. So the first thing actually that got loaded is here the video, Vimeo client. So again, here I check when I'm in edit mode, then please show the search. And I have here another control that is actually called here Vimeo search. And this Vimeo search control, React control, just consists of the text field and the button. And when I click the button, then it searches the video. And what you see here in the search video, it actually accesses directly right now my local Azure function, passing the search value or the term that has been entered in the text box, runs the query, and then returns actually the video result in a video result item. And what you see here is this is the video entry. that actually checks the edit state. So when I'm in edit state, then I want to see more details on the video. Otherwise, it just renders the video. And you have, this is one entry in the list. And you have here actually the video player, where I only took the iframe embedding that Vimeo provided me for their player. Yeah, and that's basically all components I used in here. So the rest is pretty simple, relatively simple web parts development, and by passing in the edit mode, I can. It's easy to identify, hey, I'm in edit mode, and I guess the experience for the end user is way better when they are not have to switch the context. So I have to go to Vimeo, search for the video, copy the URL out, paste it into my toolpan of the web part to make it visible on the page. Yeah. So, are there any questions?
Cool, that's really awesome demo. It shows a lot of stuff, hooking up a lot of different stuff, and Stefan will be pasting. This is going to be up on GitHub, and we'll have the link included with the when we post the video. But as well, I don't know, Stefan, if you have that handy and want to paste that now into the chat window for folks to go check that out.
Yeah. And I mean, this was just a brief overview of where is my, it's hidden here somewhere. Yeah, here. Actually, this is the demo, right? This is where you currently find the demo. And this was just a brief overview. So, I post the complete story here on my blog, which is a 3-part series. So you have a Smart Stupid Web Part 1, where I just explained the idea that I explained shortly, then how you set up this Azure function, and in the end, how you develop the web part. So you can also check this out if you like. So that's the first of the series.
Awesome. Yeah. It's really good stuff, and it really shows a great pattern for connecting up across services. So not just Vimeo, but imagine connecting out to anything and pulling that content into SharePoint.
Exactly, and you're much safer when you have to consume a third-party API if you have the configuration centralized stored somewhere on Azure instead of have everything coded in your web part.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes care of cores, and you can handle authentication differently and a lot of different things. So
even you can even, for example, sorry to interrupt you, you can even, for example, address API changes that happen to the third-party API. So you have actually your own layer to access the third-party APIs. Yeah.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. I encourage everybody to check that out. So we're going to jump back to the slides here. As always, I'll just remind folks, if you would like to demo something on the call, please just get in touch. I'd love to have these community demos. I think it's really valuable. We get to see really amazing stuff like this and like a lot of the other demos we've seen. So just reach out. Thank you very much. Great stuff there. So we do actually, this week, have a little bit of time for Q&A, so I don't know if anybody has some questions. We've kind of been answering them stream of consciousness over here in the conversation bar. Going once, going twice. Any updates on SharePoint Framework solutions in an official store? I don't have anything to share. I'll say that. Nothing yet that is a well-known ask, and folks are working on that, but it's a lot of stuff to solve with that problem, right, if you start to really think it through. Does SPFx support Redux? So SharePoint Framework doesn't support or not support Redux. That would be a decision in your application if you choose to use it you can, and SharePoint Framework really wouldn't care. So just like I could use Angular or Knockout or Vue.js or any of the other frameworks within SharePoint Framework, if I chose to use React and then I chose to use Redux with React, SharePoint Framework really wouldn't know or care, right? That would really be inside your application. So you absolutely can use Redux with React inside SharePoint Framework. Shouldn't have any problems at all. When is Vesa back? That question hurts my feelings. Not going to answer it. But I think he would be back next week. They're coming fast and furious now. Anybody know why the placeholder footer floats around on iOS devices and doesn't dock at the bottom like it is supposed to? I don't know, but that's a great thing to drop into the issues list for that SPDev docs issues list, and maybe folks can take a look at that. I don't have any special insight on that one. Are we able to get to the node modules anywhere that are added as part of the So I'm not sure exactly which node modules you mean. If you mean the ones internal to SharePoint Framework, no, those are not currently public, but you can always report issues in the issues list, and look to have those fixed or changed or enhanced to match what you're thinking about. They may at some point become open source, but there's no schedule for that, and so right now you're not able to submit a pull request there. That's back to the Redux thing. Now that the ability to select default language in modern sites is the API support for the LSID parameter also working. Currently it takes the root site's default language. I'll tell you truthfully, I don't know right off the top of my head if that parameter in the API is working or not. The quickest way would be to just go give it a try and see. I know that's not a great answer, but I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately, is my answer for you right now. Jim is posting this issue is there. I'm guessing that's the floater one. Yeah, that's the footer one. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't have any information beyond what would already be in that issue or what's that. So will the PnP commands be quickly updated to support language in the new template STS#3? So it should work, but as always, we're doing our best as an open source project to update things quickly, but if you see something, you can also always submit a pull request. So just remind folks of that. So if you are coming in and you see a thing that maybe a command needs or is lacking some new feature that's come out, you can always submit a pull request. Sometimes we on the core team don't always have time to get around to things. If you have 5, 10, 20 minutes to do it, sometimes that's a little bit quicker way to get something supported. Okay, cool. So we got through some questions. Any more questions? If not, we'll go ahead and close out just a little bit early this week. Reminder, your next SharePoint Framework JavaScript Special Interest Group meeting is going to be August 16th. That's in 2 weeks. And your next general SharePoint Dev Special Interest Group will be on August 9th. That is next Thursday. So we will see everybody next Thursday. Everybody have a great weekend, and we love having everybody on the calls. Appreciate everybody's feedback and participation. Thank you, Stefan, for the great demo. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and see everybody again next week. Bye.